All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks, my weekly picks in the world of the National Football League. Things did not get started for me on the right foot as I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers to win at home last night. And for the second consecutive week, the black and gold have found themselves on the wrong side of a score at home against a previously two-win team. But with that said, we've got some good games on tap for Sunday, as well as a double header this Monday night. And with that said, here are my picks for week number 14 in this NFL season. Now we got a pivotal showdown in the NFC South as you got the 6-6 Atlanta Falcons hosting the 5-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers with first place in the division on the line. Now, the Falcons beat the Bucks earlier this season in Tampa in a contest that could have gone either way. Obviously, with two teams with these records, you're talking about two teams that have been up and down this season, and it begins with the quarterback play. When Baker Mayfield is on, he's on, but when he's off, he's off. And the same thing can be said about Desmond Ritter. For Atlanta, they live and die by their run game, and I think it's going to be imperative for them once again to get that powerful ground attack going. The way that Atlanta runs the football, it's almost like watching a boxing match because it's all about the body blows throughout the game. And if Atlanta is able to administer their run game early and often, by the time the fourth quarter comes, those backs will really start to open things up. And those 4 or 5 yard gains will then turn to 10 or 15-yard games and allow them to control that clock. This game right here, I think, is going to be a back and forth, nip and tuck affair. I know that Atlanta is favored at home, but sweeping a division rival in a season is very difficult, especially when both teams are very evenly matched. When it's all said and done, I'm going to give the edge to Tampa on the road by the score of 23-20. Now at Soldier Field, you're going to have the 4-8 Chicago Bears hosting the 9-3 Detroit Lions. So for Detroit, they're looking to get one step closer to winning the NFC North for the first time in franchise history. But it won't be easy. Why? Because if you remember a couple of weeks ago, and this was the first game back for Justin Fields as the Bears starting quarterback, the Bears gave the Lions everything that they can handle in Detroit. And honestly, for what it's worth, the Bears really should have won that game. I think it's going to be important for the Bears to do in that game or do tomorrow, Sunday rather, what they did in that game, which is start fast. However, it's going to be a little bit different because you're playing indoors in Detroit, perfect setting for the passing games, and the Bears really got vertical in that one. But then on top of that, the Justin Fields factor as a scrambler. Can the Lions defense try to neutralize him this time around? We got to wait and see. You look at Detroit, they are 5-1 on the road this season. I think that trend continues. They're going to have to work for it. The Lions come into this contest favored by 3. I think they win by 3, and I'm going to take Detroit on the road by the score of 27-24. Now in Cincinnati, you're going to have the 6-6 Bengals hosting the 7-5 Indianapolis Colts. And you've got two teams that were written off earlier this season when both of them lost their respective starting quarterbacks. But nonetheless, both of them have rallied and both of them are in the mix for a postseason spot. Credit to Zach Taylor, the Bengals head coach, for getting Jake Browning ready to be the Bengals starting quarterback. You still got a lot of talent around Jake Browning to get the ball to, especially with the likes of Jamar Chase at the wide receiver position. Just like I talked about Baker Mayfield, Gardner Minshew for the Colts. He's a guy he can throw you into a game, and he can also throw you out of a game as well. You look at this game; it's going to come down to field position, special teams, and most importantly, turnovers. Which quarterback does a better job as far as taking care of the football? I'm going to give the edge to Cincinnati at home, and I'm going to take the Bengals by the score of 20-19. Now it's going to be Browns type weather in Cleveland as the 7-5 Browns are going to host the 8-4 Jacksonville Jaguars. Rain is on the forecast. for Cleveland. This game right here, you look at the Browns, they've been a mash unit. I mean, they have been losing players left and right, but nonetheless, credit to Kevin Stefanski and his staff for keeping this thing going. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, we don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to be good to go come Sunday afternoon. I will tell you this: he just suffered that high ankle sprain. I doubt it. I could be wrong, but something's got to give in this contest. You look at the Browns; they're 5-1 at home, while Jacksonville has yet to lose on the road. But I'll tell you like this: if Trevor Lawrence is not ready to go come Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock, I don't like Jacksonville's chances in this one. Thus, I'm going to take Cleveland by the score of 22-17. Now, in the Superdome, you're going to have the disappointing 5-7 New Orleans Saints hosting the 1-11 Carolina Panthers. And as bad as things have been for the Saints so far this season, because they've been one of, if not the biggest disappointment in the National Football League, a win right here puts them right back into the thick of things in the NFC South. Why? Because we could be talking about a potential three-way tie atop the division if the Saints win, and then also if the Bucks are able to beat the Falcons. Nonetheless, for New Orleans, they've got to go out there and take care of their business, and that's one thing that they have not done this season. This team has not clicked, especially on the offensive end, and they've got to pack their lunch. Why? Because we saw this Carolina Panthers team put up some fight last week under interim head coach Chris Tabor, and you know that's going to be the trend that will continue for the rest of the season. Why? Because everybody, players and coaches for the Panthers right now, are playing for jobs. But nonetheless, I think the Saints will be up for the challenge. I think the Saints will rise to the occasion at home. And because of that, I'm going to take New Orleans by the score of 31-20. Now, at MetLife Stadium on Sunday afternoon, you're going to have the 4-8 New York Jets hosting the 7-5 Houston Texans. And of course, the revolving door at starting quarterback continues for the New York Jets. They've released Tim Boyle, and now they're back to Zach Wilson. One thing I can say about the Houston Texans, they have no issues at quarterback. CJ Stroud was the second overall pick of this past April's NFL draft. He is looking like the real deal. He's also looking like the AFC, or NFL rather, offensive rookie of the year. This team has come together in a very quick time under first-year head coach DeMeco Ryans. You got a battle of the last two defensive coordinators for the San Francisco 49ers. DeMeco Ryans, of course, with the Texans, and Robert Saleh with the New York Jets. Points will be at a premium in this one. However, the Jets have really struggled to score points. I think that trend continues. And because of that, I'm going to take Houston on the road by the score of 24-13. Then you've got this 9-3 Baltimore Ravens hosting the 6-6 Los Angeles Rams. And for some people, don't look now, but the Baltimore Ravens, in spite of all their injuries, could actually be the best team in the AFC. Lamar Jackson, very quietly, is putting together another MVP caliber season. And this Rams defense is going to have their hands full come Sunday afternoon. We talked about mass units. The Ravens are banged up on the defensive side of the football and as a team as a whole, but nonetheless, I think they find a way to get it done at home. And because of that, I'm going to take Baltimore by the score of 27-20. Now in Vegas, you're going to have the 5-7 Raiders hosting the 6-6 Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings come into this contest favored by 3, as they are expected to have their all-world wide receiver Justin Jefferson return to the lineup. I'll tell you like this though: the Raiders at home under interim head coach Antonio Pierce are playing like a different team. The Vikings right now have some issues at the quarterback position. Of course, the return of Justin Jefferson should help to remedy that issue. But nonetheless, I like the Raiders in this one. I'm going to take the silver and black at home by the score of 20-18. A win by the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday gets them one step closer to wrapping up the NFC West. Niners come into this contest with the Seattle Seahawks with a record of 9-3, while Seattle is at 6-6. And for Seattle, their chances of winning the division are very slim, because a win here by the 49ers eliminates the Seahawks officially from at least winning the division. We saw what San Francisco could be last week when they clicked on all cylinders. And I mean, The 49ers, when they are clicking, and right now they are playing the best football in the National Football League. But nonetheless, when they're clicking on all cylinders, it looks like an 18 wheeler going down the interstate when it's clicking on all cylinders. You basically just get out of that bad boy's way. He's the king of the road and let him do what you got to do. The Niners are a fierce team. And for a lot of people, if they're healthy, they are the team to beat this season. We saw what the 49ers did to the Seattle Seahawks a couple of weeks ago on Thanksgiving night in the Pacific Northwest. And aside from having to deal with this run game, the Seahawks cannot get into a scoring battle with the 49ers. We've seen this team in recent weeks, especially since they acquired Chase Young from the Washington Commanders. Defensively, they have really begun to pin their ears back and come after opposing quarterbacks. And if this Seahawks offensive line cannot protect Geno Smith, they could be in for another long afternoon. Seattle will be game because Pete Carroll's team will put up a fight. They're a 13-point underdog in this one. I'm actually going to take the under, but I'm still going to take San Francisco by the score of 34-24. Now, a big time showdown in the AFC as you have two perennial playoff teams facing off. You got the 6-6 Buffalo Bills traveling to Arrowhead to take on the 8-4 Kansas City Chiefs in a must win for both of these clubs. Of course, Buffalo just had their bye week. They had a heartbreaking loss the week before at Lincoln Financial Field against the Philadelphia Eagles. And of course, the Bills have had their fair share of heartbreaking losses this season. This is why they're 6-6. For the Kansas City Chiefs, they're still atop the AFC West, and more than likely they are going to win the AFC West. But they're looking to avoid a two-game losing streak after they were upset last Sunday night against the Green Bay Packers. This is a must-win for both clubs because if you're Buffalo, you've got to try to keep up in the wild card picture in the AFC. And for Kansas City, you're reeling right now. You don't have the rhythm offensively that we have been accustomed to seeing in the past. And I really want to see what this Bills defense is going to do to expose that. Can they do what a lot of chief opponents have been trying to do lately, which is take away Travis Kelsey with double teams and make somebody else beat him? It's easier said than done, but you got to try to take away Kelsey. But then also, you have to find a way to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes to throw off the rhythm of this offense. Now, for the Bills, can they seize the moment? Buffalo has all of the talent in the world. Buffalo should not be a 6-6 football team, but currently they are what they are. Now, I will say this contest is going to come down to execution. This contest is also going to come down to see which team is more desperate. And I know that the Chiefs are 8-4, but they can't afford to go to 8-5, and Buffalo cannot afford to go to 6-7. Kansas City is a slight, and I mean slight favorite at home in this one by a point, but I'm going to roll with the road team in this one. I'm going to take Buffalo, and I'm going to take the Bills to win this one by the score of 31-27. Now, a showdown in the AFC West is you got two teams that are looking to hang around in the wild card picture. You got the 6-6 Denver Broncos traveling to SoFi to take on the 5-7 Los Angeles Chargers. And in spite of the fact that the Denver Broncos lost a tough one on the road last Sunday against the Houston Texans, this team has been playing some good football. Defensively, they are a lot better than they were at the beginning of the season. And I like the way that this offense is coming together. For the Chargers, they escaped Foxborough with a win last week in the rain, 6-0. But what can you say? You're playing a hapless Patriots team. I don't think that offense will be an issue this Sunday for the Chargers, at least not as much because they're home and they're indoors. I look at the Chargers. They're one of those teams. They have all of the talent in the world. They're better than their record, but at the end of the day, they are who they are. And I think they will find a way to lose this game. Thus, I'm going to take Denver on the road by the score of 24-23. Now, the big one on Sunday night, as it's a showdown in the NFC East, you got the 10-2 Philadelphia Eagles rolling into town to take on the 9-3 Dallas Cowboys. Something's got to give in this one. Philadelphia has only lost once on the road, while Dallas has yet to taste defeat at home this season. We saw these two teams meet at the link a couple of weeks ago. The contest really could have gone either way. It came down to a couple of plays, and of course, Dallas was on the short end of that stick. Dallas knows that they can hang with Philadelphia. But hanging with Philadelphia and finding a way to defeat them are two different things. And the way that you have to beat the Philadelphia Eagles is kind of like when you're facing the Kansas City Chiefs right now, or like when you were playing Tom Brady's New England Patriots. What you got to do is when you get the opportunity, you have to go out there and score. You can't settle for field goals. You have to get touchdowns and you have to put the pressure on Philadelphia. And if you could put them in a deficit and make them one dimensional, a la what the San Francisco 49ers were able to do last Sunday, it's definitely to your benefit. So, with all of that said and done, the onus is on Dak Prescott as Cowboys quarterback. A lot of people talking about him in the MVP conversation. But if you look at the Cowboys this season, they play a lot better against the bad teams and so against the good teams. And that, to me, offensively falls on your quarterback. Dak's got to go out there and seize the moment. This Eagles defense can be had. However, I think the Eagles defense is looking to, and they need to get back on track because they just gave up 42 points at home to San Francisco. Last week wasn't that much, the week before, rather, wasn't that much better against the Buffalo Bills because we saw the Bills move the football up and down the field against them. The Eagles' pass rush, which is something that was a staple for them last season, has not been there as consistently for them. They've got to try to find a way to put some pressure on Dak because if you allow Dak to get comfortable down there, CD Lamb is the real deal at wide receiver, and he could have a field day against this Eagles secondary. I talked about defense, and I'm going to flip it around to this Dallas defense. We know what they can do. You got one of the best offensive lines in football trying to slow down Micah Parsons and company. That's going to be a key. But I think what Philly needs to do, they need to get back to the basics. They need to get back to their bread and butter, running the football, controlling the time of possession, and dictating things. This is a must-win game for both teams. Philadelphia definitely doesn't want to lose two in a row. They definitely want to get back on track after they were punched in the mouth at home last Sunday, courtesy of San Francisco. Dallas is tired of hearing all of this. Well, we can't beat the good teams in the NFL. We can't beat Philadelphia. We can't beat San Francisco. Well, if you're tired of hearing it, you got to go out there and do something about it. It pays a cost to be the boss, like the old saying goes. The Cowboys come into this contest favored by 3.5 at home. However, I think the Jalen Hurts and company find a way to dig this one out, and I'm going to take Philly on the road by the score of 31-30. Now, moving to the double header on Monday night, I'm going to start in South Florida as you have the 9-3 Dolphins hosting the 4-8 Tennessee Titans. Wow, very interesting here. Miami's 5-0 at home this season, while the Titans have yet to win a game this season outside of Nashville. The Dolphins are heavily favored at home by 13 points, as we've seen them basically for this season. They've beaten up on the teams that they were supposed to beat. You look at the Titans offense led by rookie quarterback Will Levis. Don't like this matchup with him going up against this Miami defense. The Tennessee defense will be game, but there's too many weapons to try to slow down on this Miami offense, most notably wide receiver Tyreek Hill. And I think that's a difference in this one is I'm going to take the Dolphins to win at home by the score of 31-20. And finally, at MetLife Stadium on Monday night, the other part of the doubleheader, you got the 4-8 New York Football Giants hosting the 6-6 Green Bay Packers. Green Bay comes into this contest favored by 6.5. And you look at the way that their young quarterback, Jordan Love, has really gotten it going lately. The Packers were left for dead a couple of weeks ago. Now they've picked it up. They're right back in playoff contention. And they're facing a Giants team that does have some confidence now. They've won 2 games in a row. They've beaten 2 of the worst teams in football. But then they're also coming off of their bye. So let's see how the Giants look. And historically, the Giants really don't play well after their bye week. Tommy DeVito at quarterback for the Giants. He's been a feel-good story. But let's see if some of that pixie dust magic will continue in this one. And of course, with Tommy DeVito, he has been he's given the Giants a chance to win. It's not like he's gone out there and put this team on his back. But let's see what he can do against his Green Bay defense. The Giants are trying to play out the stretch and see if they can get some momentum heading into next season. Obviously, it's a long shot for them to make the playoffs at this point, and I'm going to take Green Bay by the score of 27-17. So, folks, those are my picks for week number 14 in this NFL season. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.